Hello, everyone. This is Rick, and welcome to Astral Club. This is Interview with an Archangel. This one low-key rocked my world. Before we get into it, just want to mention Patreon. If you'd like to support the work of Astral Club, you get advanced episodes every week. There's a chat function and a direct mail function, and we can talk back and forth. I can answer questions. You can give me suggestions. It's a fun deal. And if you're interested, you'll find a link in the description. Next up, private lessons. If you'd like a lesson to learn how to astral project, be glad to work with you. We'll work with folks now all over the world. If you're interested, just go down to the description and you'll find an email there. Just ask for more information. Now, recently I had an interview with my angel, and it was a very profound episode for me, and I think a number of you found it that way as well and touched you. But I'm going to prepare you. This one is of an entirely different character. Archangels, I think most people are aware, but for those who maybe aren't quite in the flow of information from my biblical standpoint, there were 7 archangels mentioned in the Bible, one of which was Raphael. These are, in essence, the top angels. They don't see or take care of mortals. They have a much more larger authority, and they're like the captains of the galaxy or universe, whereas the typical angel is, just like a lieutenant. Anyway, so just prepare yourself. They are of an entirely different character than my angel. And quite frankly, I think I was more scared in this interview than I was in any of the interviews with demons, because I felt I had a handle on them, and that as long as I maintained my control, I'd be fine. But this one was just out of this universe. But let's get into it now. The hall looked cold and sterile, as if it had been carved out of the heart of a mountain. I had never been in a place quite like this before. It's a place where the air itself felt ancient, and the silence seemed to press down on my chest. Across from me, in a chair carved from obsidian, sat an archangel. He, if you could call him that, for his features seemed more like a statue than any mortal version of beauty. He was clad in a flowing cloak of silken yellow fabric, and it seemed to constantly shimmer and shift as I watched it. A more intense, blinding light surrounded him, flaring at his shoulders. The effect gave a mirage of wings, and I would think that a more, primitive person seeing this light, it looks like wings. So I could see how people would, think about wings as with angels. Anyway, he didn't look at me directly. Instead, his gaze drifted somewhere above my head, his eyes glowing with a white light that shone forth like a supernova. My angel had arranged this interview for me with an archangel called Raphael. Rick, my angel had begun, you must restrain your trademark sense of humor. He will not tolerate it. He's not like me. He doesn't have an appreciation of frivolity. Saying that he has less of a sense of humor than my angel says a lot to me. And he said, you could be severely punished if he perceives any of your questions to be flippant or disrespectful. If my angel guide had meant to scare me, he was doing a great job. I could see the look of worry on my angel's face. I think he was frightened too. The archangel was the real deal, one of the 7 named archangels in the Bible. Even my interviews with demons, as I said, hadn't shaken me nearly as much. My angel continued, are you positive that you want to go through with this interview? Keep in mind, this being is superior to me. I will not be able to assist you in any way. You'll be on your own. With no little trepidation, I nodded my assent to the momentous interview with this imposing being. And now I stood before this great angel. The archangel spoke, his voice deep and resonant, echoing around the room like a thunderclap. I mean, it like took my astral brain and just caused it to vibrate. I couldn't perceive anything else. I couldn't think of anything else other than the words that it was speaking. Human, you have been granted this audience because you are curious. Curious enough to ask questions no one else dares. All of a sudden, my astral throat seemed to be kind of dry, kind of like it feels right now, even thinking about this now. I said, I'm honored to be here. I stammered. I forced the words out. I have so many questions, but of course you do. All humans do. It is your nature. But be warned, mortal, I do not indulge in trivialities. I nodded quickly, suddenly aware of how small I felt beneath his gaze. I understand, I said. I just tried to steady myself. I'll keep it to important questions then. The archangel's lips quirked, the faintest trace of a smile. Or was it a sneer? Before he tilted his head slightly, as if he was considering me for the first time. Very well, ask your questions, but do not expect answers that fit within the confines of your limited understanding. And boy, was he right about that. I basically drew in a slow astral breath. I said, what's it like to be an archangel? His gaze sharpened, and for a moment, I think I felt the temperature of the room drop even further. You think I could explain that to you? He asked. His voice seemed to crack ice underfoot. To a mortal mind? No. The experience of being such as I am cannot be reduced to words. My perception exists beyond time, beyond space, beyond the petty concerns of your kind. Strike one. Sensing the edge in his tone, I almost bowed out, but heck, I'm there. If he blasts me, he blasts me. Because I was curious, so I asked another one. But if you could describe it in some way, what is it you see, feel, and understand that we don't? His eyes gleamed, and a flicker of something almost human in their depths. I see all the threads, he said quietly. Every thread that binds the cosmos together. The strands of fate, of time, of life and death. I see them unraveling, intertwining, and I am both the weaver and the observer. You live in a world of illusion, a world where you perceive only the smallest fraction of what truly is. You see what is in front of you, while I see everything, the past, the future, the infinite possibilities, all of it. I carry the weight of that vision, that knowledge. I could feel the weight of his words, like the pressure of 1,000 storms gathering on the horizon. But that sounds like a burden, I said, feeling my voice falter. The archangel's eyes narrowed, his smile fading into something colder, more predatory. You dare to assume that I would see it as a burden? He asked as his tone sharpened. I am not like you. I am above the trivialities of your mortal fears and weaknesses. You speak of burden as if it's something to be feared, but there is no greater power than understanding. There is no greater freedom than to see the truth of all things. Well, that's strike two, I thought to myself. Oh boy. He paused after that little speech, and I could almost feel his gaze piercing through me, as if he were peeling back the layers of my soul. But, he continued, his voice softening just slightly, I will concede that your question is valid. To live with such sight, it can be isolating. There is no one who can comprehend the vastness of what I know, no one who can truly share in it. That is why I do not speak to your kind often. You would not understand even if I tried. I could feel my chest tightening and the weight of his words settling on me like a great stone. I shifted uncomfortably as I stood there, searching for something else to say. But why help humans then? Why even care about us at all? The Archangel's expression softened, but only for a moment. You think we help you out of care? No. There is no emotion in what I do, no desire to protect or nurture. You are a means to an end. You are the plaything of the greater design, and we are the instruments of that design. Your lives, your choices, your suffering, it all serves a greater purpose. We do not interfere unless it serves the plan. The plan? I repeated, feeling a chill run down my astral spine. The Archangel's gaze turned distant, his voice almost a whisper now. Yes, the plan. You may call it fate, destiny, or providence, but it is a force greater than all of us. It is the tapestry that holds the universe together. And I, as an archangel, am one of its many agents to ensure that the threads do not fray, to ensure that the balance is maintained, to intervene when necessary. I nodded, though I still didn't understand. So you're saying that everything is part of some larger design? That there's no real free will? The Archangel's eyes darkened, and I felt a tremor run through me. I'd hoped that wasn't strike three. Free will is an illusion. You have choices, yes, but those choices exist within the framework of the plan. Even your curiosity, even your questions, they were preordained. You would ask them regardless of whether I answered. You are all like pieces on a game board. You may move, but you are still bound to the rules of the game. His words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. I wanted to argue, to fight against the hopelessness that I felt rising in me, but something about his certainty kept me silent. The Archangel shifted in his seat, like there was a vast storm gathering strength behind him. Your time here is nearly at an end, he said. Ask one more question, mortal, and then you must return to your place in the tapestry. I hesitated, knowing that this was my last chance. If everything is part of the plan, why is there suffering? Why is there evil? The Archangel's gaze turned hard. His expression was unreadable. Suffering and evil are necessary components of the plan. They are catalysts for growth, for change. Without them, there would be no progress, no evolution. You cannot have light without darkness. You cannot have joy without sorrow. These are the truths of existence. To question them is to question the nature of reality itself. I felt a pang in my astral chest as his words settled in. There was no comfort in them, no hope. The Archangel stood, his wings unfolding like an impossibly beautiful storm cloud. Your questions are over, he said. Remember this, mortal. All things are as they must be, and you are as you must be. Now return." The air shimmered, and before I could respond, I found myself back in my physical body. I could remember everything clearly. It was as if his words had been burned into my brain cells, but something had changed inside me. I felt a deep, inexplicable change. I felt smaller now, and yet in some strange way more aware of the vastness of it all. The Archangel had been right about one thing. I would never look at the world the same way again. Well, that was it. It was a rather short interview, but I was just glad to get out of there with 2 strikes, because I don't know what would have happened with the third one. If you liked that, or you found it interesting, please hit the like button. Share it with those of like minds. Subscribe if you haven't already. Leave your comments and questions. What do you think? Is there any questions that you would have tried to ask? Keep in mind, it's my butt that might have a lightning bolt thrown at it. But I'm interested in what you have to say. This is Rick, and as always, I will see you on the astral plane.